There are two ways to build a software company. The first one looks great from the outside. You raise money, you grow fast, that gets you a headline and a round of congratulations. The second one looks like the opposite of success. No investors, no co-founders, a tiny team, and nobody paying attention to you at all. I've done both. My first company sold for 15 million and I walked away with 500 grand. My second one, I scaled it to 5 million ARR with just 5 employees. And right now, I'm running that same playbook a third time. The company is Helpley. It crossed $1 million in ARR just 7 months after launch. And we're already closing mid-market and enterprise deals against incumbents I used to believe a bootstrap founder like me could never touch. So I'm making this video to tell you the whole story of how that 5 million ARR company happened with just 5 people and how I'm using the exact same playbook to build something even bigger right now. Let's get into it. Let's start with that first company because on paper, it looked like a huge win. We had 4 co-founders and we'd raised $3.5 million. We had the kind of growth metrics that investors love to see in a deck. So when we sold it to Constant Contact for 15 million, I genuinely thought I had made it. Then the money actually landed and the math was nothing like I expected. We'd been through 3 rounds of dilution, so my ownership had shrunk every single time we raised. 4 founders were splitting whatever was left after the investors got paid. So after years of work, my share came out to $500,000. That's the moment I learned the lesson that changed everything for me. The exit price and your bank account are 2 completely different numbers, and nobody warns you about that. When you raise round after round, you slowly give away the company you're killing yourself to build. So I decided that the next company I built, I was going to actually own. And when I told people I was leaving the venture path to bootstrap on my own, nobody got it. The reaction I kept hearing was some version of, good luck running a company alone. Even my own dad asked me, why would you start over without investors? I told him, because I want to keep what I built. And he said, what if you fail? So I said, what if I succeed? The reason I was so sure this would work is that I decided to optimize for the exact opposite things this time around. Instead of chasing funding rounds, I was going to chase revenue from real customers. Instead of answering to a board, I was going to answer to the people actually paying me. And instead of hiring a huge bloated team to look impressive, I was going to stay as lean as possible as I could. That company became Groove, and the constraints everyone saw as weaknesses turned into my whole advantage. Now, to be honest, the early days were not so glamorous. I remember staring at our empty bank account night after night after we had launched. All the traditional marketing advice was basically useless for a company with no budget and no name. So I leaned into the one thing I could do for free, which was tell the story. The first thing that worked was building in public, and it's still the most powerful lever I know. I started a blog called The Journey to 100K MRR. I shared everything, real numbers, the experiments, what worked, what totally flopped. People didn't just read it, they actually trusted us because of it. And a lot of those readers turned into paying customers. When you're the most transparent company in your space, people decide to work with you before you ever try to sell them anything. The second thing was talking to customers constantly, not with surveys, but with actual conversations. Before and during the build, I was talking to hundreds of people in our market about what they were struggling with. I wasn't pitching them, I was listening. And that's what built the roadmap for us. The third thing was the model itself. Because we were product-led from day one, we had no sales team, which meant no expensive sales salaries, eating into a company that was funding itself. The content pulled people in. The product was simple enough to sell itself, and the trust did the closing. Those 3 things together took Grew from 0 to $1 million in ARR in about 8 months with no funding behind it. This is the part people always ask about though, which is how do you run a $5 million ARR company with just 5 people? But I didn't start lean. I had to learn it the hard way. Early on, I did the exact thing every founder is told to do, which is hire ahead of growth. Competitors were going faster. People kept telling me I needed a seasoned team. And honestly, my ego wanted us to look like a real company. So I made the expensive hires. And over the years, I probably spent around $8 million on employees and consultants at Groove. I hired a VP of sales for 180 grand before we even had a sales process. I hired a developer at 200 grand brand who couldn't ship the basic version of the product. I brought on a content team at $30,000 a month with no content strategy, and a PR agency at $40,000 a month for press nobody read. The reason I'm telling you this is that every one of those hires came from the same place, and it was not strategy. It was insecurity. I wanted to look legit, so I was hiring to calm my own anxiety instead of hiring against real proven work. That's the trap most founders fall into. So the rule I live by now is simple. Only hire when you're genuinely drowning in proven work. The role drives direct revenue, and you've already done the job yourself. Once I cut back to what actually mattered, here's the 5-person team that runs the whole thing. One versatile designer who can prototype in Figma, design the marketing site, and build the front end. 2 senior full stack developers who can own a feature from start to finish and ship fast. 1 founder, me, personally talking to customers and closing early deals. 1 growth marketer driving demand, and that's the entire company. A few simple rules keep it that lean, and they all come from treating the money like my own, because it is. We keep the product dead simple because every extra feature is something you have to build, support, and maintain forever. We audit our spending constantly and negotiate every vendor deal, because in a bootstrap company, that's the line between profit and break even. And we make support a team activity where everyone answers tickets, including me. That last rule matters more than it sounds, because support turned out to be our entire moat. In a bootstrap company, you can't outspend the big players. So the relationship you have with your customers is the thing that protects you. Let me give you the example that made this click for me. In 2012, in our scrappiest days, our database was corrupted during a routine backup, and we went completely dark for 39 hours. We had 2 customers react to that same outage in 2 completely opposite ways. One was paying us $36 a month, and he unloaded on us. 5 emails in the first hour, demanded a refund, canceled, completely trashed us online. Honestly, I understood it, because when you're small, you need every tool to just work. The other was paying us $7,000 a month, and her reaction was the opposite. She kept replying, "Keep going, we trust you." Checked in on my team and offered to buy us dinner while we worked through the night. The difference between those 2 reactions taught me something I built the whole company around. The price they paid had nothing to do with how they treated us. The relationship did. The customer who stayed didn't stay because of a feature. She stayed because of how we'd shown up for her long before anything ever broke. And those relationships aren't built in some big moment. They're built in small, everyday conversations your customers are having with your team. Every one of those conversations is also telling you something. Who's frustrated, who's about to leave, who's ready to buy more. But in most companies, nobody has time to actually read them. So all of that just sits there unused. That idea that the real gold is sitting inside your customer conversations is exactly what I'm building Helpley around right now. It turns the support inbox into a place you find revenue instead of just answering tickets. I'll drop a link in the description if you want to see it. Now back to the story. Now, it wasn't all up and to the right, and I'd be lying if I made it sound that way. In April of 2016, I made one decision that haunted me for the next 5 years. At that time, we had happy paying customers, product market fit, and real momentum. I decided to rebuild the entire product from scratch to compete with the bigger players. It was supposed to take a year. Instead, it took 5. We missed deadline after deadline. We couldn't execute, and our NPS dropped while we lost customers and the brand took a hit. The what ifs ate me alive because I'd watched competitors put up huge valuations and think that should have been us. I'll be honest, it led to complete depression and anxiety, and I was a CEO sitting on the sidelines for years. We finally clawed out of it around 2020, but the rebuild itself wasn't actually the problem. The way I made the decision was the problem. It wasn't based on hypothesis. It wasn't based on data. It was a gut call I made on a whim. So now the only things we ever work on are tied to a specific gap in our actual numbers. And I'd tell any founder to do the same thing years earlier than I did. Now today, the original company Groove does 5 million ARR with 5 employees and around 50% profit margins. It pays me close to $2 million annually, and I own 90%. These days, I think of that as Groove Classic. It's the legacy product. It still has happy customers and a team that supports them, but we're not chasing new growth there anymore. It's become the foundation that funds what's next. The reason I'm telling you all this is that I'm not done. I'm running the exact same playbook again right now, except this time I've got something to prove. For 14 years, a $200 a month customer was a big deal to me. That's who Groove served. And somewhere along the way, that's who we served quietly turned into, that's just who I am as a founder. That turned into a fear that maybe a bootstrap guy from Newport with a tiny team just doesn't get to compete for mid-market and enterprise deals against the incumbents. Maybe the ceiling was me. So I built Helpley to find out. And so far, the answer is no. Our average customer now pays around $8,000 a year. Some deals are $120,000 a year, which is 50 of the customers that used to be my definition of big. And we're closing them against the incumbents with the same lean team I've always run. What opened that door more than anything is outcome-based pricing. The help desk is free, $0 per seat, and you only pay when the AI actually delivers an outcome. Buyers want to pay for results, not seats. And that changes what the whole conversation is even about when you're selling up market. That's the bet now. 10 million in ARR within 3 years with no more than 8 people. Same approach as Groove. Bootstrapped, lean, profitable, and built completely in public so you can watch the whole thing happen in real time. So that lesson that the real money hides inside your customer conversations isn't just a story from the Groove days. It's the entire reason Helpley exists. And it's the company that finally showed me that the ceiling was never really there. So support feels like a cost. You're just trying to survive. Click the link in the description and go check out Helpley. And if you want to watch me scale this new company all the way to 8 figures, the same way I built Groove in public the entire way, then subscribe to my channel and I'll see you in the next video.